reach out to her and support him, you're a good son. You're a good son, son. I want to thank Joe Deval Patrick and the whole ream of Deval Patricks who are here. Basically everywhere you turn. To you and Diane and all of the leadership of the Chamber, thank you very much for the invitation to be here, and thank you for your friendship and great partnership. To our partners from the legislature who are here in number, Mr. Chairman. Do the right thing. To the mayors and other municipal leaders who are here, leaders in education, industry of a variety of kinds. I know that State Representative Frank Moran came in after the other acknowledgments. Frank, thank you for coming today. We have a really gifted new Education Secretary, Matt Malone, who's here today. Thank you. I was promised that we could spend most of the time in conversation, in some back and forth, and you telling me your ideas and so forth. And so I'm going to keep my formal remarks to a minimum, but really just to set the stage. A couple of things I want to talk about. And I really want to start by remembering a moment during the big blizzards last month when I was out on the pike. We weren't supposed to be, by the way, heading to or from that bunker in Framingham. I don't remember which. Except for plows and emergency vehicles, the roads were pretty clear of other drivers. Most of the work of preparing for the storm was done. The big decisions, like whether to declare a state of emergency or the driving ban, had been made. The forecast was pretty confident at that point, except for the constant business of tracking the minute-by-minute path of the storm or reading my hourly email updates on outages or shelter needs or getting on periodic briefing calls with the cabinet. There wasn't very much for me to do at that moment. And there I was on the pike, letting my mind wander to how eerily empty that road was, mindful that just as soon as the storm was over, it would be jam-packed again with people who depend on it. And I thought to myself, you know, our grandparents gave us that. Our grandparents. The generation or two before ours asked themselves what kind of commonwealth they wanted for themselves and for us. And then they set to work to build it. I believe that one of government's most critical functions is to provide a platform and the tools necessary to help people help themselves. For me, that means prioritizing job growth, spreading opportunity to every corner of the Commonwealth, and positioning Massachusetts to compete for jobs and talent in the global marketplace. In Massachusetts, our strategy has been to invest in education, innovation, and infrastructure. That strategy works. Because we have invested time, ideas, and money in the schools, in the innovation sectors of our economy, and in needed infrastructure projects, Massachusetts has recovered from the global economic collapse faster and stronger than most other states. Our unemployment rate is well below the national average and going down. And last month, subject to confirmation later this morning, the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that we have added back nearly every job we lost during the recession. Massachusetts has emerged as the top international supercluster in the life sciences and biotech, and as a national leader in clean and alternative energy. Our digital technology sector is resurgent, especially in the areas of robotics, game technology, cybersecurity, big data, and financial services. Precision, or so-called advanced manufacturing, is making a comeback. Every corner of the Commonwealth is shared in these investments. Here in Merrimack Valley, we reopened the Hines Bridge in Amesbury and are rebuilding the Rideau Bridge, one of our mega projects, as well as the Bates Bridge connecting Haverhill to Groveland, and the Rocks Village Bridge connecting Haverhill to West Newbury. This past fall, I cut the ribbon on the next phase in the revival of a certain mill complex in Lawrence that has grown in 5 years to house 40 small, medium, and large businesses and 3,500 employees. I think you know which one I'm talking about. And Next Stage Medical Inc., a leading manufacturer of innovative dialysis products, officially can't even begin to list the number of housing, educational, and public infrastructure projects we've done or are doing in Lowell. Because of all this and much more, because of what we in state government have done in partnership, very important, in partnership with private industry, our economy is growing faster than the nation's as a whole. Our state's bond rating is the highest in our history, and we have one of the largest rainy day funds in the nation. But with almost 233,000 people still looking for work, we have more to do, all of us. The questions are we satisfied with the pace of our recovery? And if not, are we willing to do what it takes to grow faster? Almost all of us agree that we can accelerate our growth, create many more jobs, and significantly strengthen our economic outlook by deepening our investment in transportation and in education. That is what my budget proposal is all about. By our estimates, it will take about $1 billion in new annual spending to continue to pay the bills we inherited, restore our roads, rails, and bridges to a state of good repair, and expand the system modestly but strategically so that we stimulate economic growth in underserved parts of the Commonwealth. $1 billion will get us a modern, equitable, properly funded transportation system, but not a luxurious one. The number is big not because of the proverbial wish list, but because of what this Commonwealth has failed to do for nearly 20 years. I have proposed to invest an additional $900 million in new revenue in education. We've made great progress in strengthening our schools in Massachusetts over the last 20 years. Our students perform at the top of the nation in student achievement and near the top in international assessments of academic achievement. But underneath those nation-leading results, many students are stuck in deep and persistent achievement gaps. And these gaps threaten our ability to remain competitive with other states and nations in the global marketplace. There are strategies to remedy this that we know work, and some will require new money. By our estimates, $900 million gets the over 30,000 kids off the waiting list for early education, extends the school day for middle schoolers in places where poverty is concentrated so they get what they need, makes college more affordable for our young people by restoring the buying power of the mass grant program and the public share of support for our public colleges and universities, and enables our community colleges to serve as the platform for skills training. Brain power is, as you all know, our signature economic edge here in the Commonwealth. And failing to invest in that in Massachusetts would be like Texas failing to support the oil industry or Iowa their corn farmers. Indeed, failing to invest in education would practically mean choosing which four-year-old, which high school student applying to college, and which of the almost 233,000 people looking for work should wait until the time is just right for us to act. I have proposed to address these realities now because doing so secures our economic future, and because failing to do so puts that future at risk. I have been all over the Commonwealth since I proposed my plan, engaging people in conversations about their wants and the taxes required to pay for them. I have been listening hard, and I'm going to listen hard today. What they tell me is no surprise. People want modern, convenient, safe, accessible, and affordable subways, buses, commuter trains, roads, ferries, bridges, and airports. Workers, mothers, students, businesses, tourists, tradesmen, elders, people with disabilities need access to work, housing, customers, recreation, the doctor, their relatives, the grocery store, and the gym. And they want it equitably in every single region of the Commonwealth, not just concentrated in a neighborhood close to Beacon Hill. Of course, every mom and dad wants the best education for his or her child. It's true no matter what neighborhood they come from. Strivers from every neighborhood want an affordable path to college. Businesses want better prepared workers. Kids understand that too, even the little ones. I have lots of opportunities to listen to their stories about what they want to be when they grow up. And as a parent, I hear optimism and eagerness. As a governor, I hear a call to action. What our neighbors, our citizens, and colleagues want is not frivolous or unreasonable. In fact, it's precisely what this Commonwealth needs to be economically strong today and in the future, because all the evidence points to the fact that making these investments means more jobs and opportunity. If we want growth, we need investment. That new investment will require new revenue. And though the conversation about taxes is never easy, the time is at hand to have it if we want faster and broader growth. Nearly everyone I meet, from legislative leadership to shop owners, that I meet in many conversations, acknowledges that fact. Now, to be clear, new revenue does not let any of us off the hook from the business of reforming state government. That work is and must remain perpetual. I am proud of the fact that working with our partners in the legislature, we've achieved a raft of reforms that have eluded us in this Commonwealth for decades. Closing loopholes and extending the retirement age in the public pension system, asking public employees to shoulder a larger share of the health care costs, replacing police details with civilian flaggers, simplifying the transportation bureaucracy and shutting down the Turnpike Authority, systematically combing through and discarding or updating old regulations, reducing full-time headcount by 6,000 positions, and much, much more. These reforms have or will save the Commonwealth billions of dollars. We have more awaiting action before the legislature right now. But reform alone is not enough to deliver for us all a 21st century transportation or education system. If we want more, we need to pay more. Under the proposal I have made, most families with an income of up to $62,000 would see their total state taxes either stay about the same or go down. Families making over $62,000 would see an increase in total state taxes according to their ability to pay. To give you a sense of the order of magnitude, a typical individual making about $100,000 would see an increase in total taxes of between $300 and $400. Let's be clear on the impact. Half the wage earners in the Commonwealth make $62,000 or less. What I propose means that total state taxes for half the state's wage earners either would stay the same or go down. Costs to small businesses also go down with the sales tax cut. Those who are best able to pay more do so according to their ability to do so. Under my proposal, all families would see a benefit. There would be no increase in tuition and fees next year at UMass campuses, for example. 3- and 4-year-olds would come off the wait list for early education, and qualifying students would have access to 4 times the amount of grant money to pay for college. T and regional transit service would improve, and fares and tolls would rise more modestly, more gradually, and more predictably than the pattern of fits and starts we've experienced in the past. Long-delayed projects to rebuild our roads and bridges would get done and get underway throughout the Commonwealth, and there will be jobs. Jobs for Massachusetts people doing work to benefit Massachusetts communities. My proposal also assures that Massachusetts remains competitive. Let me assure you that we do not have and will not have a total tax rate out of line with the rest of the country. We are currently just below the national average today in total taxes. With my proposal, we would move to just slightly above the national average by a position or 2. Even with the proposed changes, we would remain lower in total taxes than many of the states with which we compete today for jobs and talent, and comparable to all of them. I think that as part of this conversation, it's also critical to address this myth that lowering taxes automatically leads to economic growth. I want to be clear, it is spending on transportation and education that supports job growth, not lower taxes for the sake of low taxes alone. Last month, the Nonpartisan Institute for Taxation and Economic Policy issued a report evaluating the economic growth per capita of several states. The report compared 9 states with relatively high income taxes to 9 states with low or no income tax. The analysis made clear that the 9 states with higher income taxes actually saw considerable considerably more economic growth per capita than the 9 states with low or no income tax. The states with no income tax, in fact, have seen a decline in median income. Economic prosperity has much, much more to do, by all of the evidence, with education levels than with income tax rate. In other words, invest in education to grow opportunity, put it off, and slip behind. The progress we have made has happened because we have faced these tough choices and made them together, inspired by our commitment to leave to others a better Commonwealth than we found. And I want to end just by saying this. Americans rarely ever leave anything that we think is important to chance. When we decided that settling the West was important, we built the Transcontinental Railroad. When we decided that educating our kids was important, we created public schools and land-grant universities. When we decided that freedom was important, and I mean really important, not just a rhetorical matter, we freed the slaves. We gave women the right to vote. We've been on a journey of civil rights and civil liberties ever since. Americans don't leave what we view as important to chance. We shape our own future. That's why our grandparents gave us the pike and the tea and that confounded bunker I had to during the emergency for training. And the question is, are we ready to step up in our time for the generation to come? I look forward to the conversation.
Governor, first of all, it was up to you. I hope you have a couple of minutes to answer some questions from the audience, sir. So with that, does anybody have a question for the governor? Come right over.
During one day to the U.S. Secret Products, other presidents, I want to thank you for putting together the Access and Opportunity group that you had on your county motto, and also the diversity with a lot of effort with the Department of Transportation across the board, the agencies. I'm seeing the civil rights officers and the Office of Supply Diversity working hard, not just mouthing the words, but actually, I was just at the NBT this past week asking, so how much money did you make? How much money did you make? Not just, yes, they're willing to meet with you, but how much money did you make? And I want to thank you for really, over the 2 terms that you've been in the office, making sure every single contract has something to do with diversity and inclusion. So I want to thank you.
City Councilman Lawrence. How you doing? I guess the only thing that I would ask is that I appreciate the effort that is being put on for education reform. Thank you for that, and I hope that the legislature becomes some good agreements on that part. That investment that's going to be needed. I understand the work you're trying to do with the roads. Brian lives close to me, so whatever you want, Brian. The other thing is that we just hope that Lawrence has a real specific need on public safety, and if you guys up at the Hill could come together on an agreement about not something that looks like a reform for public safety, so that when the number of the amount of state support goes down, the ability for us to keep our streets safe doesn't go down, and for us gateway communities, that's very crucial. So I know that some work is being done there, but in effort to do something when we have problems with money at the state level, that us, we have that saying, the state catches a cold, we didn't own it. So we want to make sure that you guys think that like public safety for once, we have the best roads, maybe not to here, but we're not going to come and it'll fix it. I believe it's on the system local aid and from our property tax. We don't have, I wish we could have more, and we're all struggling with that ability to raise tax revenues. And we're doing our much. We did 10 years of raising the local tax rate to the levy. And for a community that has very little wallet share, that does hurt. So we're doing our part. We're just hoping you guys can be thinking about the overall budget. A public safety that looks like every form, that would be very helpful for us.
Any other questions for now? There's a couple more. Over here, and I'm sure. Right there.
Alton Napoli, as a former selectman, Governor, I appreciate all you've done, but as a selectman, I saw healthcare take a large bite out of municipal budgets every year. And I know we stem that back, but it's still a large piece. You've spoken about education, transportation, and I applaud you for that. But where are we looking at healthcare in your budget going forward?
Well, nice to see you. Thank you for the question. So we have in our budget, we have, I think probably the biggest local thrust on healthcare has been the claims. And I need this. I do. You do? Okay. I want to thank the members of the legislature for helping us get to a good place on claims. I assume that in your town you've taken advantage of the opportunities around the county. Good. So what am I doing wrong? Do I have to hold it closer? Or point toward you? You are your own electrical field. So I think we all know this about you. I think Diane, I appreciate what Diane said earlier about the work we've been doing together around system-wide costs. I think that work has to continue. I think we've got an extra level of complexity from trying to align what we're doing with the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, I think. There's some big decisions there we're going to have to make, and we'll make soon, and we'll make them with an eye to how to make sure the progress we're making on cost containment